Hey guys, this is Dan from Let's Tank, and today we're going to be looking at the Protection Paladin. We're going to be looking at the class hall. We're also going to be looking at the artifact weapon, a few of the artifact talents, and then we're going to be actually going into the Protection Paladin's talents, and then looking how they play in dungeons. So let's start by looking at the class hall. Now, Paladin's class hall is located in the Eastern Plague Lands, and you'll be going to Light's Hope Chapel. Now, when you get there, you enter the chapel, and there's a cool little thing you have to click on, and it opens a secret passageway going beneath the chapel, which takes you to this huge monastery. Now, this is surrounded by statues. It's got Paladin weapons from the past, like there's a lot of BC models, a couple of Wrath models hung up, and it looks kind of cool. Now, as you go through the chapel, there's going to be a lot of silver hands sitting down, looking forward towards like a pillar, and on the pillar there's a big beam of light shining down. It looks epic, and behind them two huge statues holding cool Paladin artifact weapons. Now, if you click on this chapel, this is where you're going to actually upgrade your artifact weapon. And this is where it kind of gets interesting. You got to put a few talent points into the artifact weapon before the whole thing unlocks. And when you do that, it lights up. It feels a little bit epic. It's pretty cool when you do it. And it shows you all the talents. Now, currently, there's not much else to do in here. There is like a garrison thing where you click on like a board and you can get followers and you send them off to counteract boss battles. And these will come back with gold, XP, and I'm going to guess some like normal and heroic and mythic caches later on in the alpha, but for currently there's not much to do. I've only actually unlocked one of them, so hopefully they had a few more things in here to do, maybe like a puzzle. I know the shaman one has like a Rubik's cube you can mess about with, so hopefully they do something with the paladin one as well. Okay, next we're going to be looking at the paladin artifact weapon and the talents. So to get the artifact weapon, you go on a quest. Now the quest is to get Truth Guard, which is your shield's name. It's kind of cool, they go hand in hand, the shield and the sword, but it's mainly the shield that you'll be putting the talent points into. Now, the problem I have with artifact weapon currently is on the Protection Paladin, the quest is actually really short and really simple to do. It doesn't feel very epic, and for a legendary / artifact weapon, whatever you want to call it, you want it to feel epic, because this is going to be staying with us all the way through Legion, and if it hasn't got that epic feel about it, it's a kind of a letdown for like casual players and even the better raiders, because even better raiders want to feel like this shield on sword are doing something for the player, where at the moment is you just run through a corridor, kill a few guys, kill a really easy boss which you don't even have to do any interrupts with. It's extremely hard to die to him. I did it on my first try without really paying attention. I didn't even realise it was the last guy. I just thought it was another mob who summoned an ad or something, but yeah, it was the last guy, and then I got the Truth Guard. This was a real big letdown for myself, and I really wanted more from it. One thing Blizzard has done to try to get this epic feel up is a kind of like stop animation, like the camera will pivot around a character for a split second, pull up some big text and be like, "This is the Truth Guard, Vazguard, blah blah blah," and the camera will pivot round them, showing it off for a second, and then it'll zoom out and you can carry on playing. Now, this is cool the first time, but after you're doing all your alts and you just want to get on with it, it kind of gets old very fast. So hopefully there's an option to turn this off, which there probably will be knowing Blizzard. But the first I see it, it'd be like, wow, that's really cool. But after that, it's literally, you stop playing the game and a camera spins around and some text comes up. So I really hope to see an improvement on this in the future. So let's quickly look at the quest. So you get ported outside a shrine with 2 NPCs, Auric Trueheart and a guy called Kato. Now, the goal is to get through this with them, and your shield's at the end or somewhere in the shrine. They're not 100% sure. Before you can enter the shrine, however, there is a big red dragon there, and you just kill the dragon and you kill the NPC with him. Nothing too hard, nothing too epic just yet. But I am glad to see that they're starting to bring dragons back into the game. I do miss the dragon mechanic, frontal breath, tail swipe, and all that good stuff. Now, upon entering the shrine, there's a few traps and a few little mechanics we've seen from Hellfire Citadel in here. There's a few orbs that you need to AoE down, so it's making you use your Consecrate and your Hammer of Righteous. And then there's some pushing back wins. Now, I really hate this mechanic from Iskar, and I bloody hate it here. Anything pushing back and my Paladin tank is a no-go from me. Give me my warrior and give me a heroic leap back to get over that as quick as possible. Now, after you've got past the wins, Auric will tell you that you need to click some symbol, and then your shield will start shooting beams of light at the door. This is pretty cool, and yeah, I'll give it to Blizzard. That bit does feel a bit epic, but it's once you get through the door that it's a total letdown. You see an NPC, he's the last boss. Now, that's the end of the Protection Paladin artifact quest line. There is nothing more to say on this quest, so let's start looking at how we're going to be upgrading the shield and how the shield's going to progress with us during the levels 100 to 110 and in dungeons through items. Now, the items are used in your quest hall, or class hall, my bad, and you use them and they give you so many points depending on what the item actually is. There's a few different ones. There's like a green one, there's epic ones, and between them what you get them off dungeon bosses, you get them in chests, you get them from rares out in the open world, and these will give you the power to upgrade your weapon. Now, some of the talent points are really cool and you can kind of like talent tree it like the old ways back to how you want it, but in the end, most of them, or if not all of them, will be unlocked. Now, I hope not all of them are unlocked in endgame, but I'm not 100% on this just yet. But if they're not, I would actually prefer it, because then it makes it a bit more like a talent tree and you've got to kind of wisely choose what you want to do with your shield instead of just putting everything into whatever you feel like and not having to worry about it. So now let's look at the actual talents within the artifact weapon itself. Now basically what these do are just buff your other abilities and reduce the cooldown of others. There are currently 4 main focal points on the actual artifact talent points itself which you want to be aiming to get. The first one being Eye of Tyre, which is actually the first point you'll put into it, which will unlock the rest. And this is going to be a 1 minute cooldown, a 25% damage reduction on everything, and it lasts for 9 seconds. This could be changed in the future, but I very much doubt it. The next talent point is to the right of the tree. It's called Light of the Titans, and what will happen if you spec into this is when you use your Shield of the Righteous, it will empower your Light of the Protector, increasing the amount it heals for. Now at the moment it just says 0, so I'm not too sure how much by, but we'll have to wait and see for that one. The third main talent point is on the left of the tree and is called Bulwark of Order. Now this is a shield that you'll get from using your Avenger's Shield. So the damage you do with Avenger's Shield will shield yourself for that amount. And the last talent point you're going to get is called Tears Enforcer. Now how this ability works is every target that is hit with your Avenger's Shield will then pulse for 5 seconds, dealing damage to anything within 5 yards, I believe it is, of the targets that were hit by your Avenger's Shield. It's a kind of cool mechanic and it's a bit different. It causes an extra AoE splash effect from an already AoE ability, so it's kind of new on the Warcraft abilities. I don't think there's any other ability like it. Maybe Seed of Corruption kind of effect, but it's not like a boom, it's like a pulsing effect. So yeah, I kind of like that talent. It's different, it's something new to the Paladin, and you can do quite a lot of like range damage and maybe a range kite effect with it. And that's pretty much it for the big talents on the artifact weapon. The rest are small talents like reducing your Hand of Sacrifice by 60, Consecrate lasts an extra second, you get increased health, increased armor, just the generic things that Blizzard normally put in talents. Now, let's have a look at the actual Protection Paladin talent tree. It's a little bit different and some of them combine together, so it's kind of interesting. Let's start with the first tier. These are level 15 talents and the first one is First Avenger. Now this increases your Avenger's Shield damage by 100%, but it now only hits one target. It also has a 100% chance to reset its cooldown from abilities and also other talents. This is a very strong talent choice because Avenger's Shield now increases the effect of your big heal and also your Shield of the Righteous, so keep that in mind when you're solo tanking single target bosses. The second ability on this tier is called Hand of the Protector. Now this is going to replace Light of the Protector, which is your big heal, and it'll enable you to put the heal onto another player, but instead of the 40% of missing health, it'll be 35% of the missing health, but it also can be cast on absolutely anybody in the raid. It's also on a 16-second cooldown, so keep that in mind. I'm guessing this is also affected by the other cooldowns, so if you have talents in the upper tier that reduce its cooldown, I'm sure that they'll also affect this ability. And finally, the last tier in this is Consecrated Hammer. Now this removes the cooldown on your Hammer of the Righteous, so you can just keep spamming it, and it also gains the permanent effect of being in Consecrate, so you don't actually need to put your Consecrate down, and you can just spam it away and it'll have the maximum damage potential. Now, looking at these talents, it depends what's happening in the fight. If you need to help with the healing, you go the second talent choice. If you're on an AoE fight, you go Consecrated Hammer, and for a single target fight, you'd obviously go for the Avenger's Shield talent. Now the level 30 involves Holy Shield, the second one is Guardian's Light, and the final one is Last Defender. Now Holy Shield is a passive ability that increases your block chance by 10% and allows you to block spells, and your successful blocks deal 4,241 holy damage to the attacker. Guardian's Light is also a passive, increasing the healing from Light of the Protector by 20%. And finally, Last Defender, the final passive of the level 30 talents, is each enemy within 8 yards reduces the damage that you take by 3%. This effect has diminishing returns. So for this one, you can either go with the Holy Shield or Guardian's Light. I won't really go Last Defender just because of the diminishing returns, but if you get Guardian's Light, it goes really well with a Hand of Protector from the level 15 talent tree. So mixing and matching these talents is going to prove really interesting. So the level 45 talents include Fist of Justice, Repentance, and Blinding Light, and these abilities do pretty much the same as they currently do on live. There's nothing too special here. The next ones we're going to look at are the level 60s, and this includes Blessing of Spell Warding, Blessing of Salvation, and Retribution Aura. Blessing of Spell Warding is an instant cast spell. It replaces Blessing of Protection, and what it'll do, instead of doing physical damage, it'll now do magical damage. Blessing of Salvation places a blessing on a party or raid member, temporarily removing all threat from the target and causing all additional threat generated to be transferred to you. And finally, Retribution Aura, you will deal 283 holy damage to any enemy whose melee attack strikes a non-tank ally within 60 yards. The level 75 talents consist of Bastion of Light, Crusader's Judgment, and Blessed Hammer. Now, Bastion of Light is an instant cast 3-minute cooldown, and what it will do, it will immediately grant you 3 charges of Shield of the Righteous. Crusader's Judgment is a passive where your judgment has 15% chance to reset the remaining cooldown of Avenger's Shield. And Blessed Hammer will replace Hammer of the Righteous. It is an instant 1.45 second cooldown, and what it will do is it throws a Blessed Hammer that spirals outwards, dealing 6,000 holy damage to enemies that it hits, and causing them to deal 15% less damage to you on their auto attacks. Now this can be also combined with Consecrated Hammer, meaning you can just spam it and have a constant 15% damage reduction around the Paladin. The level 90 talents are Aegis of the Light, Judgment of Light, and Consecrated Ground. Now Aegis of Light is a channeled 5-minute cooldown, raid-wide cooldown, and what will happen is it channels an Aegis of Light that protects you and all allies standing within 10 yards behind you for 6 seconds, reducing all damage taken by 20%. So anyone who's behind you gets 20% reduced damage basically. The next one, which was Judgment of Light, which is a passive, and your judgment now applies Judgment of Light to the target, causing the next 40 successful attacks against the target to heal the attacker for 1,000. This effect can only occur once every few seconds on each target. So basically, anyone who hits the target takes 1 charge away and it heals them for 1,000. Consecrated Ground is a passive, and up to 6 allies standing within your consecration receive 500 healing every 1 second, and enemies within your consecration have 50% reduced movement speed. Finally, your level 100 talents are Righteous Protector, Knight Templar, and Final Stand. Now, Righteous Protector is a passive, and what it does is Shield of the Righteous reduces the remaining cooldown on Light of the Protector by 3 seconds. This, I'm guessing, is combined with Hand of the Protector, so it will reduce the cooldown of that as well, I believe. Knight Templar is also a passive, and it reduces the cooldown of Divine Steed by 50% and reduces all damage taken while mounted on your Divine Steed by 20%. Currently, this is bugged, so I can't really give any more information on it because we can't actually mount inside areas for some reason, so at the moment this talent is absolutely useless. The final talent is Final Stand, and it's a passive, and it reduces the cooldown of Divine Shield by 50%, and when you use Divine Shield you also taunt all targets within 15 yards for 8 seconds. So it's basically an immunity and you're taunting everything onto yourself, so you're taking no damage for that time. So this is a real great talent for certain situations, but it also depends. Like all these talents are useful in their own way. So as it stands currently, these talents are pretty good. There can be a lot of improvements, however. Like there's certain talents, like the level 45 talents, they need to be improved on. Blinding Light is still not a very good talent choice. Repentance has been tweaked, so the monster is actually taking damage while it's repentant, so that is quite good, but Blinding Light needs to be buffed just a little bit to get it in line with something as good as Shockwave. The other talents are pretty cool. I like how you can combine them together, but I really want them to fix Knight Templar so I can actually have a real good in-depth look and feel for it. Final stand's good, but the cooldown is still a little bit too long, and it's going to be one of those, how many mobs am I tanking, and do I really want to be fully immune for that time? I'm also liking how we can combine it so we could have Final Stand mixed with the Last Defender talent, so we're taking that 3% reduced damage, but we're tanking just a few too many and the DR hits, so then we just Final Stand to help get rid of that DR. So there's some cool little tricks in the talent tree here. So for the final section of this video, I'm just going to put the new animations and what skills look like and just go over a few of the things he've brought back to Paladin and the new skill that is Light of the Protector. Now, Light of the Protector is an instant cast spell. It's on roughly a 15-second cooldown, but obviously you can reduce this cooldown. You can also buff it with Avenger's Shield, which is a really cool mechanic. It makes you hold onto your Avenger's Shield and know like a little bit of timing behind it. So you're thinking, oh, my Light of the Protector is going to go up. I better use Avenger's Shield so it's a bigger heal on myself. Or, oh, my Avenger's Shield and Righteous is up. Let's Shield of the Righteous after I've used an Avenger's Shield so it's a bit more strong. There's cool little things like that which I'm really enjoying at the moment. But that's pretty much all I'm enjoying about the Paladin. The rest is pretty meh. It's samey. We've been here. This is the past 3-4 years of Paladin now. It needs a bit more of a change. Finally, they've brought back Avenging Wrath to Paladins. I'm really happy about this. It means we can compete with things like Avatar, Breath of Sindragosa, so on and so forth. Like, every class has this thing, and Paladins have been missing it and relying on the trinket from Archimon to keep that threat with other tanks, and I think this is needed to be brought back, and it has been, so good on you, Blizzard. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to call it there for the Protection Paladin. I'll do a beta review on it when it finally gets released and the class isn't as buggy and we can use some of the skills during dungeons. But apart from that, I probably won't be maining my Protection Paladin in Legion. As it stands, I'll probably go to my Warrior, and the next guide I will be doing will be either my Warrior guide or Heroic Dungeon guide. I have not decided, and I'll probably throw in a review and thoughts with that. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. It's kind of a long video. It's a bit of me rambling as well. Like, comment, subscribe, and you can now follow me on Twitter as well.